Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. After taking like a season and a half, almost 2-season hiatus, the podcast pals, the broadcast buddies are back in town here to provide the riveting content you all look for. Some things have changed, but some things have stayed the same. We have Andrew's new haircut, Tim rocking a fedora, Brendan with the flowing locks, and I'm still here. So we've got a great show.
And JR still missing.
Exactly.
He's really busy.
Oh, yep.
Well, JR's got a real
It's what happens.
That's true.
Yeah, JR's got a big boy job. So welcome back.
You had a what?
Give you guys a little bit of a rundown. I hate y'all are terrible. But giving you a little bit of a rundown. First off, I think there is some congratulations in order for as much as we used to dog on him. Congratulations, Anju, on winning the World Series. Congratulations. You get
Cardinals
one of
country.
these.
That's right.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, don't say anything about the fact that I did it while you two weren't GMs.
Well, I mean, we all need.
Oh, you stole my thunder.
I got in front of it.
You got in front of it. And Tim has taken off the GM hat. He's gained some hair, it looks like, and he's put on a fedora. Tim is now our resident Jeff Passan, Ken Rosenthal, Joel Sherman, the guy who I like to say he who shall not be named, John Hammond. Oh, wow, sorry, I had something stuck in my throat there. But Tim, it is great to have you back, and I feel like, not saying you are a bad GM, but this role seems to fit you a lot better than trying to run the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, this brought me back to like when I first found EMLB and just got so motivated and was so thrilled by it. And then when I took the GM job, it was like, what? I've got to have a sim ready today. No. Yeah, this is more me.
And now everyone's bombarding you with news stories that they want you to put up right away.
Yeah, absolutely.
He answers me.
If you guys are not,
it'll go up in a minute, and I'm like, it's okay. I'm not rushed.
Yeah,
I'm just giving you info.
My favorite,
do with it what you will.
My favorite is I'll get a DM back. Like I'll send him something, and he'll go, "Oh, I'll get it up. I'll get it up in a while." I'm like, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Take your time, or don't post it.
Yeah.
I don't really care if it gets posted or not. But if you guys are not already part of the Discord, make sure to join it, and you can follow Backfields Media, and it's got a whole lot of content in there, and it's basically like a Twitter feed for all the important moves that are happening in EMLB, as well as some nonsense coming from some specific GMs, but we won't name names. Brendan is back as well. Brendan, you took over the big project of making the Yankees great again. The EMLB bad boy, as has been referred to you by multiple sources. Hold on, Tim. Can your sources confirm that that's how he is being referred to amongst the league?
Confirmed.
Okay, so we do have confirmation. While we have him here, we might as well use it.
I haven't had enough time to get Yankees gear, and I did the next best thing and wear the colors of the Yankees of college basketball.
Well played.
I had to wear the jersey of the new Cardinals acquisition. So,
ooh, I like it.
Nice of real life to cooperate like that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, right. And I'm back this time, not with my Tampa Bay Rays, as much as I love them. Shout out to D Block; he's doing a great job over there with them. I miss my boys truly, but I'm glad he's doing well. And I'm taking on a smaller market team. And, Erin left me in good hands when she took over Tim's job there in Arizona. And I'm excited to see what we can do in a small market and try and bring baseball to the Twin Cities and make it great. So without much further ado, we got the introductions out of the way again. We're going to jump into it. So today what we're doing is similar to another media company's free agency draft. What we're going to do is we're going to go in a snake order that has been predetermined by nothing but alphabetical order. What we're going to do is we're going to give a name and where we think they end up. We'll spend a minute or two talking about them and move on to the next one. We're going to do a snake draft format. Each each person is going to pick 5 players, so there will be 20 picks in total for us to talk about, and then at the end we'll see how we do. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right into it? Andrew, you ready to jump right into it?
Yep, we got it up.
All right, here we go. So I guess I'm going to kick us off. And I'm going to take the 1 of 1 on the board. I'm going to go ahead and take I'd say probably the biggest CCP on the market. I'm going to take Kent Hrbek Jr. And I think, we already talked about him being the bad boy of EMLB. I think with the amount of money that he has to spend, he's going to end up a New York Yankee. I think Hrbek's going to really fit well. Him and Mr. Hedges over there can play real well together between third base and second base. And I really do believe that Kent Hrbek will play really well in Yankee Stadium. And that'll be the start of Brendan's reign of terror over the EMLB, with being the New York Yankees as they are in real life and splashing the cash to get those premier players, i.e. similar to Alex Rodriguez in real life.
Someone else is going to have to take this because I really don't feel like I should comment on any potential acquisitions for the Yankees in this particular exercise.
I mean, my comment is I'm totally on board with Aiden. If he's calling himself the EMLB bad boy already, what more can you do than snag probably, one of, if not the biggest free agent bats on the market at a position of need, no less, for the Yankees. Ever since Devers slid over to first base. I mean, it just fits perfectly with the Yankees and what they're trying to do. I don't know of many other teams that will be pushing for a third baseman, because there's a lot of third basemen on the market too. So it's not like someone has to push for Kent Hrbek, because you also have players like Barrios and Diaz out there. So there's a few options for third base. So I don't think the competition will be as stiff because everyone's not gunning for the one third baseman. But I think the Yankees sound like the right landing spot for Hrbek.
Yeah,
Tim, we've heard a few things. Tim, I want to get your reporter hat on for a minute. We've heard a few things about there are some teams that Hrbek is saying absolutely not to. What are your sources telling you about where he is not wanting to go?
We are struggling to find confirmation on some of the things. I think it's fair to say that Chicago is out of the running to re-sign him if they could possibly. I also think I don't have a good feeling that he's really interested in any National League teams, any of the teams that would be in position for him. I think the Yankees feel like the best fit. There might be an outlier or two in the AL West, is what I'm hearing, that might be interested in Hrbek, but I don't know if they can afford him to the degree that maybe the Yankees can.
I will actually weigh in on one thing here. It is specifically about the AL West. While the Rangers and the Astros may have a little bit, and the Angels may have a little bit of room to move this year, their purses are going to be getting a little bit tight over the next couple of seasons. But the Stags, on the other hand, have a lot of money to play with, and they've already shown a willingness to do this once. They did it last year with Dom Aguilera. I think they might do it again.
Interesting.
That cigar is really getting to you over there, Tim, huh?
Yeah. It's not a Cuban.
Andrew.
Fair enough. All right. So, yeah.
I will pick next. I'm going to move to the pitching side. I'm going to be boring because I'm going to pick the same team, but I think this pitcher fits exactly what Brendan is going to want to do in New York, and that is an ace material pitcher that is not a fly ball pitcher in Yankee Stadium, and that is Joel Machado. I just think that
I think
they need pitching, honestly. Like, they have a couple of good pitchers, but not great pitchers. And if you have $90+ million to use, and you don't have an ace pitcher, you go out and get one, especially with someone like Joel Machado, 6.3 WAR last year, available.
114 actually.
Oh, is that breaking news?
Severino got moved. So
Severino's been. Oh my gosh,
That's some
Wow.
serious money.
So here's my thing. If Machado doesn't end up as a New York Yankee, someone completely overpaid for him and is handcuffing their franchise for a long period of time. Because the only team that can really afford this contract and continue to add on free agents around him to not handcuff themselves is the Yankees. Joel Machado fits as the Yankees profile. Not even taking Brennan into account, just as a Yankee and the way the stadium plays, like you were mentioning, it is basically the only landing spot I can see. The only other spot that I had a little bit of maybe, hey, he could end up here. I thought maybe the Brewers could have made a small run at him, or potentially even we could have seen. I have the Stags as well, just trying to make that really big marquee signing. They did the bat last year. This year they go get an arm.
Yeah, the thing about those two teams, though, is that I feel like if they want to make that kind of move, they would want to have a better team around them as to not waste the talent. So I think both of them are going to be trying to make smart moves to keep building and then bide their time to make that big splash when they're ready to make that next step into playoff contention. I just think they're just outside of that right now. And honestly, like you said, there's not a lot of teams that are going to have the money to sign Joel Machado. And teams that have, like the Astros, aren't going to re-sign him because they obviously let him walk. Other teams like myself, I've already got an ace and an A, B, and a C, so I don't really need Machado on my team. Would it be nice? Heck yeah, but I don't need to overpay for him. And would
I love Machado in Minnesota? Yes. Can I afford him? No.
No. So
Tim, what's your take on?
It feels like the cop out answer, but I mean, it just makes the most sense.
Tim, what's your take?
I'm sitting here looking at the Dodgers and thinking they probably don't have enough money, but I also see.
They can just defer it. It's fine.
Well, and I'm seeing some of the people that they are paying, and they are small enough contracts where somebody might want to eat those contracts. Machado's a big name pitcher. I think he's going to go to a big name team. Whether that's the Yankees or the Dodgers,
I did think of one more team that could make a play at Machado, and that was a team that just missed the playoffs this season. Boston, which Boston and New York fighting for Machado will be great headlines.
Wow.
But
yeah, it sure would.
Boston, I think that would make Kamish's heart so happy.
But the thing is, like, that's been one of Boston's biggest weaknesses over the course of EMLB 2.0 is they've been a good offense, but have always struggled in the pitching department. You add Machado to Boston, that makes sense. And they have a good amount of money. Thank you. Shout out to Harris for giving us a rundown of some teams that have money in the GM news. That's what I was referencing there. But yeah, that's another team that could make a push for Machado, which would be amazing storylines.
Before we move on, Tim, the Dodgers currently have 11 million available in team funds.
Okay.
With even less in years, even less the next couple of years.
So they would really need to shuffle. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess it's up to me now. And
we finally get to hear from you.
Well, in a division where a team has just won a World Series, and in a division sharing a team that won the World Series in back-to-back years just a couple years ago, the NL Central is a interesting situation. Obviously, the Cardinals just won. The Pirates have completely reshuffled. The Cubs are staring down the barrel of complete financial ruin over the next couple years. And I feel like there is a window for a team to take the number 2 spot and potentially challenge the Cardinals for the number 1 spot. And I think that window could be taken by the Milwaukee Brewers. They have filled out they have a lot of room to move this year, and they've got a couple good pieces on that team with I think it's Danny Bradford, the outfielder, and then obviously Gabe Hillman, the CCP catcher or pitcher. They need offense, they need defense, they need pitching, they need batters. But I think this is a good landing spot for Kenny Rodriguez. K-Rod, after getting traded from New York, had 2 okay seasons in Houston before completely busting out last year with a great campaign. His value is as high as it's going to get, and I think a lot of teams are going to be in on him, but this is one of the best destinations. A 1.0 CCP going to a 1.0 GM. Because K-Rod was original 1.0 GM.
So I actually had K-Rod going somewhere else. I had him on my little prediction sheet that I did. I thought he would have been a great fit in Texas. I thought that he really wants to make a splash out there in Texas, and I really felt like Jamie over there could have done something to put himself levels above. The AL West is always a dogfight out there, and it's always a race out there, and I really think that Jamie's going to want to make a big move this year. So I feel like this is the type of move that Jamie makes, solidifies his offense, solidifies his infield, and he takes a shot at a big-name free agent and at least drives the price up. Because I feel like that position and the bat that Kenny Rodriguez would bring is the one thing that's missing in Texas.
Despite having a top 5 budget, probably I think it's top 3. I don't know the exact specifics off the top of my head. He has a payroll for this upcoming year right now of $245.4 and a payroll next year right now of $256.8. And then the year after that, $224.7. At least in the short term, he's going to have trouble taking on a big contract. I think there are multiple teams in this league who traditionally are the guys that we would expect to have gone after these kind of players who just don't have the financial resources to do so this year. Again, the Rangers being one of them.
I kind of like Kenny in Milwaukee. I don't have any tips on. I haven't heard anything. There's very little tips on free agency because I think a lot of teams are keeping it close to the vest who they're after. But I could see that being a good fit for them. So, Portland possibly.
Mr. Backfield's Media.
Yeah. All right. So
do you want to give us a player from your end?
Yeah. I'm going to stick with third base. I'm going to go with Danny Diaz. 29 years old, recently of the Red Sox. I have no information on this. This is just my gut. Chicago has just enough money to take him, meaning the White Sox. Ooh. And that would be a significant offensive upgrade from the dancing man, Danny Kelly. And I could see them. I feel like they've got a couple of moves up their sleeve. I think they're going to try and get the job done this year, although it is going to be tough with all the moves that Philly made. But I have Diaz to the White Sox. Discuss.
You know, I really hadn't considered the White Sox like that, but I love it.
I love it as well. But something in my gut is telling me one of the 3 third basemen on the market, one of the 3 big third basemen on the market is going to end up in Boston. And for some reason, I feel like Diaz is one of those guys that might sit for a little bit. I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I feel like Diaz is one of those guys who might sit. And I have a hard time believing that if he sits for a little bit, I can see him going back to Boston. I just feel like there's familiarity there, and it makes sense. He was in that lineup for a reason, and I really feel like Boston needs that type of bat. And if they want to continue to add on, and we see what Brennan's doing in New York, if the moves go the way we think they're going to go, Brennan's going to be a powerhouse. And you know that Boston over there is not going to want to take that lightly. So I feel like they re-signed Diaz because the big thing there, they don't lose a draft pick. And draft picks are more valuable in this league than any other league simply due to the influx of CCPs. So I think if it was between, Herbeck, Barrios, and Diaz, Boston would go after Diaz just for the simple fact they don't lose a compensation pick.
So my opinion, again, no news, this is just an opinion. I think that Jake values the defense of Danny Kelly, and I think he might view Diaz as too much of a downgrade defensively over at third base because he's already got the DH spot locked up with Broccoli. So there's not really a lot of room to move him around. And Colton Short's already got first base locked down. There's no way he's moving out of that spot. I feel like he needs to make some moves. I don't think Diaz is the move that Chicago makes. I can see it happening. I just don't think it will happen. I can see the thought process as to why Danny Diaz would fit. It's definitely an offensive upgrade over Danny Kelly. Kelly's there just purely for defense, but I think Jake values that defense. And I think that Diaz Diaz is below average defensively, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And
at average.
I feel like if Diaz was average to slightly above average, then he would take the chance on it. But because it's such a downgrade defensively, I think that'll give him pause. Now, I can't think of top of my head of a better place for Diaz right now. Maybe Boston, like we were saying, like he goes back to Boston. But I feel like if Boston wanted him, they would have extended him before he hit free agency.
Okay.
Well,
All
Tim,
right.
you get to go.
Tim, you're back up.
All right. Well, I'm going to take an easy one based on the chat today. Jeremy Hoxie.
Yep.
Seems like Denbrew kind of threw down the gauntlet, and I don't know whether he's trying to start a bidding war or what he's trying to do, but I am going to zig instead of zag, and I think Hoxie ends up in Houston when all is said and done.
Interesting.
Well,
Tim, I agree with you that Hoxie is not going to be a New York Met. I think you got the right league in the American League, but I think he's going to the team you mentioned for Diaz. I think the Chicago White Sox make a sneaky play to Hoxie, try and get a top-of-the-line starting pitcher in there that might be a little cheaper than your Joel Machado and really make themselves the front runners in the AL and make themselves the biggest World Series contender.
So basically replace Barbosa with Hoxie, who's a year younger. Okay.
I don't think Chicago's going after a starting pitcher. Look at their minors and look who's about to be ready.
mm-hmm.
They're not going to.
No, I see that, but
pitcher.
If you have the level of starting pitcher that a Hoxie is, and if he is affordable enough for you, I can see Chicago wanting to do that. And I think that at the end of the day, I haven't been here enough to see what he does in Chicago and how he's going to run his free agency after being so close to the World Series. I think that he goes, great. He goes, great. I want the World Series now. Let me add that veteran starting pitcher because you can take that, and one of these teams who misses out on a starting pitcher, you can trade him in a few years. You can figure out a way to use him. I just see Chicago making a splash, and I think this is that splash that they make because I think they need pitching more than they do offense.
Well, they've got 30-something million available, period. And I just a cursory look through their organization tells me they're going to favor a bat over an arm if they get anything at all. And they would much rather put that money into their organization through their dev budget, through their scouting budget, through their draft budget, and also roll it over into the next couple of years so they can build up more of a war chest for later and extending the waves of talent they have coming up.
So, Aiden, here's why you're wrong. The current rotation for the White Sox, and this is without Barbosa, John Crabtree, 4.6 WAR. Exuko Rune, 4.9 WAR. Tim Weaver, 2.8 WAR, and he's not even reached his full potential yet. And then you have the two of the top pitchers in the minor league systems in Lukasiak and Abenduct, both at a potential of 80. Lukasiak can start in the rotation this year. Abenduct is not that far behind. There's no way they're going to invest money into a starting pitcher.
And there's no way they're going to get into a bidding war with Denbrew over a pitcher who's going to go 9-17 and walk a batter an inning.
And also give up a draft pick because he does have the qualifying offer attached.
You have heard that before.
I think Hoxie will I think he has a strong chance to end up back with the Mets, but I do like the fact that Denbrew, I feel like he's starting a bidding war because he's got that qualifying offer attached to it. So I can see Houston, and I guess Hoxie would be cheaper than Machado, so I guess that would make sense for Houston. That's why they would let Machado go and bring in Hoxie. They've already got Bradford. It's not like they need Machado.
Right. I'm seeing Hoxie at 26 mil on my file. I don't know what you guys see him at.
That's just the start.
Yeah, Machado's 10 million.
The rough
Machado's
estimation
10 million above that.
The rough estimation on my file for Hoxie is 24.5, according to my file.
Yeah.
According
and I've got Machado up there in CCP territory with 38. So.
Well, I guess it's my turn again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sticking with the theme of National League hitters, they're no longer the number one team in cash available after a trade made with me. I don't even care to hide it. I think Tim already posted about it. The Rockies have a lot of money available, and the Rockies have done a really good job of building up their farm system for pitching. I feel like they're quietly doing a good job of putting their team together to be successful over the next couple of years. But they've neglected their offense. And I think they've done that almost on purpose, understanding it's a lot easier to get big offense in Colorado. So why not take some of the 70-ish million they're going to have and throw a good chunk of that change at Edgar Barrios? Who can walk in and hit 60. Oops. That's like a SpongeBob meme right there. Oops. Why not invest?
Get the caps
why not invest $35 million a year of that over 7 years, and a guy who is going to hit at least 40 home runs? I mean, I just think that's too good of a move for them. It also pushes them towards the front of the conversation in the NL West, because the Dodgers are going to have big problems over the next couple of years in terms of their payroll. The Giants seem to be up and down, and the Padres seem to be kind of in a we're figuring ourselves out right now phase, at least in terms of their roster, because they got a lot of guys whose contracts are coming up and a lot of guys who I don't really see much on the way for them.
Edgar Barrios was the biggest question mark for me when I was trying to go through and figure out where he was going to end up. You guys made some great points, and I mentioned Danny Diaz potentially going back to Boston. If Herbeck or Diaz is not in Boston, I think Barrios ends up there. I think one of those three third basemen, it will end up in Boston. And I think out of the three, if it's not Diaz, it is Barrios. So I'd put a little more money on Barrios going to Boston. Just to frankly keep up with you in New York. I mean, let's face it.
No.
Kamish has said multiple times on stream and in the Discord, he wants that rivalry back. And I think that he will allow his best friend over there to get into that rivalry. And I think he's going to not get in his ear, but I think he's going to realize, oh, I need to make a move. Let's bring in Barrios and change the narrative.
I think Mr. Doran is going to have to be around a little bit more if that's going to be the case.
Gauntlet time.
Anyone else have any thoughts on Mr. Barrios?
I like Barrios to Boston. That's all. For the reasons said.
So assuming no one else has anything to say about Barrios. I'll say mine because it leads into my free agent pick. Because I was about to take Barrios if you didn't, and I was going to say the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays have a good amount of money, and they have a hole at third base. I was going to say Barrios to the Rays. I will stick with the Rays.
Ooh.
I'm going to take another player and put them over on the Rays because they have another need, and that is starting pitching. I'm going to say the Captain Barbosa will end up over in Tampa Bay. I need to make sure I spell his name right. I always keep spelling it wrong.
I mean, Captain Barbosa in Tampa Bay seems to fit.
It is the land of the Pirates.
This is true.
The only one better would have been going to the actual Pirates, but I don't think Cody's going to go after
I'm going to throw caution to the wind here. I think Brendan is going to completely take over his team. I think Barbosa and Machado end up New York Yankees. I think he makes a 1-2 at the top of that rotation, spends the cash, solidifies himself, and I just want to be fun and do something different. I like playing the devil's advocate, but imagine Machado and Barbosa together in. Speaking of Machado, real quick, I forgot to ask this earlier. Tim, in your reporting, have we heard any words on whereabouts of Mrs. Machado?
Different Mrs. Machado. No, she left the Arizona team during my tenure to start her own business.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was running a fireworks stand, if I recall correctly.
I guess I didn't fully understand the assignment in this because I feel like Aiden has had a different team for every single player listed, and I would almost like do we list our own idea where they go, or do we acknowledge where the person drafting them has picked them to be?
What do you mean?
Oh, because Barbosa to Tampa Bay. Well, I think he'd be good in New York. Barrios to Colorado. Well, I think he'd be good in Boston. I'm do we talk about potential destination, or we talked about where they've been selected to go in our free agency draft here?
Either
doesn't matter. Either one.
Okay.
If you agree with
it's open
it,
for discussion.
Yeah.
But in terms of us trying to predict and see who's the best at predicting, this is the record. But we can agree, we can disagree.
We're trying to be good at this?
I said it a couple times. I did not fully understand the assignment. So I was I'm going to ask questions.
Yeah, he didn't do his homework.
I did not.
By the way, for those that are wondering, I stole this from John Boy Media and their podcast Baseball or Talking Baseball, where they do a free agency draft.
We don't have any money.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do their full idea. They talk how many years the player's going to sign for, and they get bonus points if they are former award winners. I'm just like, that's just way too complicated for us.
Lord. Yeah.
I will say that one of them got Santander to the Blue Jays correct. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I
derailed this
on the
particular
Rays.
conversation.
I like Barbosa on the Rays. I was kind of feeling like Cleveland might make a run at him, replace Carpenter, who they lost, and actually get kind of an upgrade because their starting pitching kind of took a dip.
It'd be funny if Barbosa went back to Cleveland, though.
But I was like, wasn't he already on Cleveland?
He was already on Cleveland.
I know.
I mean, Barbosa's been on a bunch of teams recently. So.
Right.
I'm going to take a stab here. Using some inside information, I think a reliever is going to come off the board, and I think it's a former Cardinal and Mr. Jose Leclerc. I think that he's going to go knowing this person is looking for a reliever to finish out his team. I think he continues his bloodbath in Philadelphia. I think the Phillies land Leclerc and go with a 1-2 punch with Leclerc and James at the back of that bullpen and really make themselves a tier above any other team in the National League.
Gonna be
There's a little
hard
inside
to
information
give
going
that guy
on there,
$20
but
million a year.
He's asking 22 from me. All right, Aiden, I'm going to use the phrase again. Here's why you're wrong. You haven't been here in a while, so you obviously have kind of lost your memory on what Philadelphia does. And what Philadelphia does is they exclusively sign ground ball pitchers. Leclerc is an extreme fly ball pitcher. Phillies aren't going to touch him with a 10-foot pole.
Make it 20. One for each million he's asking for.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I see them going a cheaper and possibly better route because Leclerc is 36. I see him being somebody who one of the teams at the top will go for, but I don't think it's Philly. It just doesn't feel like a good fit to me.
I see Leclerc as the kind of guy who is sitting around in early March without a job.
Yeah.
Toronto just flashed in my head as far as Leclerc, but it would have to be like a late, like you're talking about midway through spring training and he still hasn't signed kind of deal.
Yeah, I feel like Leclerc's going to sit there for a while just because he's asking for over $20 million as a reliever at 36 years old. And not only that, he's asking, I don't know if he's asking this for all teams, but in the Cardinals negotiations with him, he's asking for 4 years. That would put him into age 40 at $20 million a year as a reliever. And all I'll say is if I had,
all right, let me move on.
All I'll say is if I had an extension left, he would have been able to sign for less. He's asking for more now that he's hit free agency.
Oh yeah.
Years
Leclerc
and money.
Ferrari. Confirmed.
I'm researching my next one a little bit just because I want to make sure of something.
You don't want to be wrong again?
Now,
I don't care about being wrong. That's
our
the fun of this.
show taught me anything, it's that Aiden is not afraid to be wrong.
That's fair.
No, I like being wrong. It's kind of fun.
Liberating.
So I'm going to go ahead and go. I want to go off the beaten path a little bit. I'm going to take a guy who's not one of the top free agents, but I feel like that's what this is about. Let's have some fun, right?
Yeah. Go for it.
I'm going to take second baseman Mac Horvath, a defensive specialist that I think a team who needs some defense in their infield. I think he ends up in Sacramento with the Athletics. I think this is a very A's-type move. I think this solidifies their infield defense a little bit and gives them sort of a stopgap where they can continue to try and build themselves out of a hole that has been years and years in the making due to former regime. And like I said, I want to have a little fun and go off the beaten path. Exactly.
Well,
I wanted to go off the beaten path a little bit.
But at this point in time, Will is the former regime. He's been there for like 4 seasons now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say there's so much in a hole as in it's a really tough situation in a really tough division.
Yeah. I know I kind of went out into left field and pulled a name that probably you guys didn't even have on your bingo sheets, but I wanted to have a little fun. I feel like that's part of this experiment or part of this thing is find some names that, we wouldn't normally talk about on a day-to-day podcast.
I'm okay with that.
He's one of the best defenders in this free agent class, so he's going to get attention for sure. Just because he's not one of the best available doesn't mean he's not going to be competitive. It's not going to be a competitive market for him.
Yeah.
And he might go pretty quickly because of his low ask. If somebody comes in and raises that number a little bit, he'd probably go pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at a couple of teams that could use second base, but I can't argue with Sacramento. That looks like a really nice fit.
I do like seeing that SAC for the A's. I feel like that looks good.
Yeah. He can also play
All right,
really
Andrew,
good
you're
third
back.
base and shortstop too. So it's not like
Yeah.
he's just a second
He's
base.
one of those utility guys. He's one of those utility guys that a small market team like a Sacramento, taking off my GM hat for a second, like a Minnesota, like even even a Kansas City could go after someone like this to just help steady the defense, help steady your guy, and have multiple options to play him. So the bat may not be there, but you can still have a defensively sound player, which we've seen how much that matters in this league.
I mean, with all that extra money Kansas City's got, maybe they will go after him.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe.
Well,
if this league teaches
they could use him
if
as
this league
shortstop.
teaches us anything, this league teaches us anything.
I mean,
Running your finances into the ground only gets you a bailout.
and I mean, he's only asking for a skosh above league minimum. So,
yeah, I mean his WAR, his OPS plus has kept him really down. He's like the next Nasim Nunez, where he doesn't really hit very much, but he's an excellent defender.
That's an excellent comp.
Nasim.
Hey, you know what they say? Defense wins championships.
Yeah, but you got to
Fair
hit
enough.
a little too.
Yeah, you do.
And
All right,
and I mean,
Anju,
in the
you're
modern
up.
game, second base is kind of that's not as prevalent a
Yeah.
defensive spot anymore.
But I think but like we were saying, his versatility is going to land him a job.
Oh yeah, poor man's
We're at 41 and counting right now. Let's go ahead and get to the halfway point, which is Andrew's pick right here.
Good point. So I've been trying really hard to find a player that I think, that hasn't been drafted yet, that I think would fit well in Portland, because Portland has a good amount of money to spend, but I don't, knowing Attica, he's not one to spend recklessly. He's very measured, very precise with how he's trying to make his moves and build the expansion team in Portland. So I'm looking for players that may make an impact, but won't necessarily set him back. Maybe try to just improve the performance a little bit. This may be kind of off the wall, but in Portland, I'm going with Aaron Judge.
Ooh.
Gives Portland a bat. It gives Portland a popular player. And because he's on the older side, it's not an unreasonable contract. I don't think he's going to try to make a huge splash. I think he's trying to make these kind of mid-level moves to bring in some experience, bring in some, like, kind of taking a page out of Eddie's book with the Marlins, bring in butts and seats. And I think Aaron Judge might fit well in Portland.
I really like that. I think that is
I do too.
Excellent destination for him. And like you said, taking a page out of the Eddie playbook, which I mean has shown to work.
See, what's really funny to me is I had him written down here. I had Portland/Miami simply for Eddie's famous line of putting butts in seats.
Yep.
So I had Portland and Miami written down for him because I think those are the two teams that logically make sense for him. You could see a late team come in that maybe just needs a power bat, but like you said, I feel like Aaron Judge in Portland or Miami, potentially. Brendan, you sort of mentioned it earlier with needing a power bat, more a Colorado, just to hit a bunch of bombs, put some butts in seats out there. But I feel like it's one of those more of those mid-market teams that are going to go for him. Your Portlands, your Miamis, your Colorados, potentially even maybe a Cincinnati or something like that. I'm just throwing some of those mid-market teams out there that could use a power bat in the middle of their lineup, who are hitter-friendly parks, of course.
I put Judge with Portland for the fact that Judge is asking for a little bit more than some of these other mid to high 30-year-old players. And I think that might scare away Eddie and the Marlins a little bit. I think Eddie more goes after extremely popular players that are like 5 million or below. So that's kind of why I went Portland, because they've got a little bit more money to spend, so they can splurge, if that's the for an old extremely popular player, if you will. But yeah, I was between Portland and Miami, but I really wanted to find someone to go to Portland.
Yeah, he feels like a good fit for Portland. And
I really like it.
Mhm.
I love it.
Stick in the same area of the country, but I'm going to go a little bit more north, and we're going to take a look at the Seattle Mariners. I think that if you look at their current 40-man roster, their current major league roster, there is a gaping huge hole in the gaping huge outfield at T-Mobile Park. And there are a couple of decent outfielders. However, there's one guy who I think would work really good in Seattle box, and that is Walker Smith. He is an
You stole my pick. That's
he is
awesome.
an excellent defensive corner outfielder. He has got very good contact. He does not strike out a whole lot. The real life Mariners could use that. He hits for contact. He's got a decent amount of power, but you're not expecting him to hit a whole bunch of home runs. You're expecting doubles and defense. And for doubles and defense, he would go great in left field.
That's a home run pick. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Pick,
I love it. That was
No notes.
where I was going.
nothing more to say.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, let's go back to back here.
All right. Well, I'm going to stay in Seattle.
Ooh.
And they've got a lot of needs. I'm going to go a little bit out on a limb because they need both pitching and offense. And who better than Shohei Ohtani to fill that bill? I feel like it is going to be a late spring training kind of deal. I think he's going to have to come off of his $20 million, but I think it's this solves the DH issue. And although Cecil Cantrell is killing it in the CCP Festival, that does not translate to 2031 EMLB, sadly.
Unfortunately.
So I think they're going to need at least one more rotation spot and take a flyer, is my thought.
Okay. I like that.
It's just going to be a big question of whether Shohei can show at least respectable performance, because he was a minus WAR player both at the plate and on the mound.
So you're asking if he can show a respectable performance?
Boo.
Boo. Yeah.
Only if the dog comes to games with him.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I can see it. I can see it happening. There's a lot of teams that might try to make a play on Shohei, but I think a lot of teams are going to be scared off by how he performed last year, because he's 36, and it might be a case of he's hit that age where it's all downhill from there. Maybe he can find it again, but in LA, where he didn't have to be the main person and he still struggled, he might still be struggling. But
And this feels like
I can see
classic,
Seattle doing it.
Feels like a classic out of the park where he'll want 5 years, 100 mil at 36, and
Like
nobody's
another Leclerc situation.
Yeah, nobody's going to want to jump for that. That's why I think he lasts for a while. Oh, it is back to me. All right. So let me look at one other thing here. I was double checking. I have a sense that there is a relief pitcher out here who was no. I want to go somewhere else with this. I want to go to second base, and I want to go Tank Espelin.
Ooh.
Another defensive specialist.
Yes, I had kind of forgotten that he was still out here. I see him ending up in Boston, replacing Noah Campbell.
I don't hate that.
because Campbell, he's on the wrong side of 30. Good defense. Bat's kind of iffy. This feels like a fairly decent upgrade if they were to get him. So, 'tis my pick.
Yeah, he's probably going to be a popular target too with his defense the way it is, as well as a captain personality, leader in the clubhouse.
I was about to say, if I remember correctly, he had a really good personality.
Yeah, and smart apparently, high intelligence.
I like the pick. Just again, been playing devil's advocate all day, and I'm going to continue to do it. I think he becomes a backup infielder in Cincinnati. I think that he can do well in that locker room over there, provide some decent defense where needed. And, I think JR likes that type of – we know JR well. I think he likes that type of personality trait. He'll love the glove on him. And I think he would round out us already solid infield in Cincinnati and give JR peace of mind when he does have to have a defensive replacement or a guy take a day off.
Just a minute ago, Andrew said he doesn't have that good a bat, but he's got a but, and this but is something that I've been told many times in my life, but he's got a great personality and he seems really smart.
We're just going to leave it at that, aren't we?
Good. I just want to
Been there and done that. Been there and done
Andrew,
that.
Andrew, I respectfully request you to hit the button, and you know what button I'm talking about.
The technical difficulty button.
All right,
Never.
Brennan. Take your fourth pick.
So I'm going to make another trip around to the only team who has close to as much money as I do, and that
Arizona.
Milwaukee. No, definitely not Arizona. Matter of fact, the bottom three teams for money available are in no particular order because I can't remember the exact order, but Arizona, San Francisco, and the Dodgers. So the NL West.
It's expensive out there.
I already have them grabbing one hitter to bolster that lineup. And I'm going to go ahead and have them picking another one because there is one more high dollar free agent that none of us have talked about yet, and who's someone who is going to have very few suitors due to what he can play. That's Shamar Hosky. I
thought you were about to take my next pick.
He's a first baseman only. And by being a first baseman only, he's not going to have as many opportunities to play. He's going to be a first base or DH. But the Brewers are a team that has an open spot at either first base or DH, moving their current first baseman to whichever one he doesn't play. They need bats, and they have enough money to spend. And like I said in my earlier bit, I think they're going to be a team that makes a play to get better this year.
I like it.
Personally,
I think it makes sense.
I like the move personally with his bat. I'd love to see him in the power alleys of Colorado. With the way his gap power works, with the way his power is in general, he could be a 40 homer, 20 double guy out there in Colorado. But I think Milwaukee makes a lot of sense as well. No, I know. I'm just
we're all young and pretty good.
Well, Dawson isn't really.
No. I'm not saying And I'm not necessarily saying that Colorado's going to sign him. I'm just saying that I think it would be a lot of fun to see him out in Colorado. And if it's not Milwaukee, I could see Colorado making a play similar to what you were saying about Barrios and needing that bat. And they do have some flexibility with those younger guys. Looking into it, some of those younger guys could potentially transition into other positions. So I could see them making a run at Hosky at the right dollar amount.
My thoughts. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You hadn't.
No, I like the Milwaukee pick. Full stop.
I like it as well. I just hope that your predictions don't come true because I don't need Milwaukee to become a competitor in the NL Central with Kenny Rodriguez and Shamar.
Oh, come on.
There's a target on your back, Andrew.
I know.
You're going to have to deal with it. Every game, every series against you is the World Series next year.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. I'm going to go with a team that we have not really mentioned yet. And it's a team that is always near the top of the standings. It's a team that has already won the World Series once, and they are going to try to do whatever they can to get back there. They are in a very competitive division in the AL West. We're going to talk about the LA Angels.
Ooh.
And I believe that they want to add another bat. And while I think technically they could easily move Mike Trout to DH, this might be an off-the-wall pick, but I think that Seiya Suzuki might fit well in Los Angeles.
Ooh.
Because Trout isn't a liability defensively yet. He can still handle left field pretty well, so they don't have to move him to the to DH. Suzuki is more of a defensive liability than Trout would be, but you add a Suzuki bat to that lineup. You just re-rated Ronald Acuna, who should be fine in right field. You already have Barry out in left field to pretty much, or center field, to cover any ground that Trout doesn't get, and you add Suzuki's bat as a DH to that lineup. I think it just makes it that much more formidable.
A more perfect pairing for this player I could not have thought of.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, simply for the fact, like you said, they could use a bat like that. I really love what you did there. Just throwing out a few other teams where Suzuki could go. I know this seems weird. I had on my paper potentially Cleveland. I had Cleveland, I had Pittsburgh, and I had Cincinnati as three different teams that he could just end up in. Just looking around at who could use a bat, maybe a little bit cheaper of a contract, and just wanting, again, to have a little fun with this and see where people could end up.
Yeah. I mean,
I see that. I also like the Angels better, though.
I also think it would be.
I don't
funny
disagree
if
with the Angels.
I think it would be funny if the Angels signed Suzuki because of how much time he spent in Houston. Just to kind of because you know that those AL West teams just do stuff just to spite the other teams, and I think that would be something that Tom would do. Is I'm going to take Suzuki and just throw him up against Houston.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw my next one up here.
All right.
It being my turn. I'm going to go ahead and go with the last starting pitcher we have on the board. In the last big one, and Eric Carpenter. He's sort of that last one we haven't really talked about. Carpenter is a really interesting one to me, and I had a hard time figuring out where he was going to go as my computer decides to freeze for a second. In my opinion, Carpenter is one of those guys where he could do a lot of different things. He is 31 years old. He is an extreme fly ball pitcher, so he definitely has to go somewhere that's more pitcher friendly than hitter friendly. And even though the money is tight out there, as we talked about, I think a place that he could end up is Seattle.
Well, we're talking about Seattle making a lot of free agent signings, aren't we?
Apparently.
I think similar to what you said, they could use a pitcher. It's not a bad ballpark for a hitter. And I think a lot of it comes down to as well that they will be happy if they do get him. Like I think he would play well in the up there. That ballpark suits a guy like Carpenter being a fly ball pitcher.
Seattle IRL is more dead than in the game, but it is one of the deadest parks in the league. It is one of the hardest parks to hit in. So fly ball pitcher is perfectly fine there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
especially if they sign Walker Smith in the outfield to go run down those fly balls.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea.
So I guess So I guess it's my turn to finish out here.
It is.
Yes.
I'm going to go with a fun name. I want to have fun. I'm going to take the first ever CCP to reach free agency in Justin Barber. This time around, not necessarily going with the agent strategy according to sources. I think there is one place where a bat like this might be needed. He can put a few butts in seats, not as well. Actually, you know what? I'm scrapping Justin Barber. Scrap it. Scrap it. I'm instead going Bryce Harper.
If you're
I'm
going,
going
where
Bryce Harper.
where I thought I had the same thought, but I chose Judge, and I was gonna think about Harper later if we're on the same page here.
Bryce Harper to Miami.
Yep, we were on the same page.
Judge and Harper are 1A, 1B in this similarity. Harper's going to be a little bit cheaper. One of them is ending up in Miami. One of them's ending up in Portland. Take your pick at which one. You pick Judge for Portland, so I'm going to say Harper in Miami. We already sort of talked about the reasons why they might go one or the other.
I mean, Miami had to let Seiya Suzuki go because of cost. This is basically just Seiya Suzuki's spot in the lineup.
Yep. Yeah, Aiden, I know we've disagreed a couple times. You and I are on the exact same wavelength on that one. That's exactly the mindset I had.
Just for the record, if anyone picks Justin Barber, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I did have Justin Barber in Miami as a similar play to the Bryce Harper, just not as many butts and seats.
And true to Harper's history, he leaves his old team and they win the World Series the next year.
That would be, well, I mean, I'm going to try to do whatever I can to not let that happen, but
right. Totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
And you might just pull what happened the last time that his team was good, making runs in the playoffs. He just kind of crashes and burn for a season before having to put it all back together again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have already re-signed Lewis, so I'm already kind of going down that path, aren't I?
Well, maybe.
So I'm trying to, for my last pick, I'm trying to go with team because I feel like it's a team that wants to make a move. They have money to make a move, but all of the players I wanted to put there, y'all have taken. So, because we're here at the end of the draft. Like, I feel like Shamar Hosky would have been a great fit for this team. I feel like Kenny Rodriguez might have been a great fit for this team. Eric Carpenter would have been a good fit for this team too. So I am trying to rack my brain and figure out who to put with this team. And I think I'm going to do this. I am talking about the other team across the city from Brendan.
Oh,
the New York Mets. And like I said, I feel like they're going to make a bigger splash than this player because they have money. They're finally free of a lot of the bad contracts that they've made in the past. And I don't think that Denver is making empty threats in terms of offering Hoxie. Yeah, can't speak. But I feel like he might go after other pitchers or else he probably would have already resigned Hosky. I'm going to go. Let me just double check his team to make sure this is a good fit. Well, maybe it won't be a good fit.
It's the 18th pick. We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll make it work. I mean, yeah, hold on. Let me go back. Yeah, I'll go with this one. I'm going to go with a reliever. I'm going to go Edwin Diaz.
Ooh.
I was the player I was thinking of going there was Judge Dozier, but they have quite a few outfield options. I don't know if he'll go after him, but he could use some bullpen help in New York, and especially a guy who can lock up the back of the bullpen. Right now, their closer is listed as Ben Christensen, who has a career 19 save, or who was a rookie last year and had 18 saves last year. I think they look to improve that. So I think Edwin Diaz would be a good fit in New York.
Plus,
I like it.
he's in real life, and we can on stream we can play the song. So I'm good with that. I'm good with all that.
I like it.
So I need somebody to confirm to me in game that you see this player.
Okay.
On Stats Plus, if you go to OSA overalls and you sort all available free agents, okay?
If it's Jan that beat, we have a problem.
What?
If it's Jan that beat, there's a problem.
There is the fifth highest overall player by OSA is a Korean pitcher named Jong-woo Kim on Stats Plus. Now I don't know if he's there in game or not because I'm not looking.
Not seeing him.
I'm not seeing him.
Jong-woo Kim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to say San Diego just because he's Kim?
No, I actually wanted to see if that player was in game because I've been using Stats Plus all tonight. I'm not on my desktop.
It's not Jinwoo, right? That's the Mets catcher. And he's definitely not free agent.
You said Jay Woong?
How do I spell it?
JEONG-WOO Kim.
Okay. I don't see him.
I see him. He is a free agent. But I can't offer him a contract. No, I found him. He's been KBO, but it doesn't look like I can offer him a contract.
Oh,
because he has no team.
He might not be an international free agent yet.
It's weird. He's listed among our available free agents.
He's not in the file.
Interesting.
Well, that's depressing.
I searched him up. He is a free agent, but not an available one.
That's just sad.
Well, I was gonna say San Diego because obviously.
Man, he does look good though.
Yeah.
Well, now I gotta go back.
Come on, somebody needs to post him.
I don't know what this means in terms of the KBO, but it says a Type A free agent.
Maybe he might be available through if you sort by not EML. If there's MLB when you look for players available. If you go to
well, like Aiden said, I'm not able to offer him a contract, so he's not available for EMLB.
Well, sham it.
Good player though. Apparently has 3 of the KBO's equivalent of a Cy Young award.
He does. That's why I was looking at him for this.
They have a tiered free agent system in KBO. A is the top tier.
There you go.
A, B, and C.
Might be one of those that he's not available to be posted yet or whatever.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
I will be boring and say that Victoranio Garcia goes back to Washington because ain't nobody else offering him a contract, and I think he'll just settle and take whatever.
Oops. I'm typing on the wrong screen. There we go. I don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah, that was that was my settle pick.
All right.
So Tim, would you like to round us out?
Yes, with Mr. Irrelevant, or at least for this conversation.
Mr. Least.
So I know what you're going to say, but Tim, they have no money. And you'd be right, but they have a little bit of money. And the most important thing is they have needs. I was going to go somewhere else with that, but never mind.
Oh, I missed this.
My sources tell me that the Chicago Cubs could use some starting pitching. And Mackenzie Gore, to me, is that starting pitcher.
Ooh.
He's cheap and decent.
Disposable in 14 years, decomposable.
All right.
And at least we don't have to have Danny Smith pitching every third day. So, I'm not as I look at that team and I am not as convinced that they are going to go belly up broke I feel like at some point somebody's going to trade for the Frenchman. If Tomoya Mori taught us nothing, is that no EMLB contract is untradeable.
This is true.
Yeah, but that took me a minute, and I'm not touching that one.
You say that now, but if the right situation came along and you can say, "Hey, I'll take this off your hands,"
I mean, sure, if they were willing to part with Danny Smith.
you never know. Danny Smith is the Mark Allery of EMLB for me, and Mark Allery, for those of you who are too young to know this, was a Duke basketball player who he'd play, and I'd watch the entire game, and I thought he had a bad game, and then I look up and he scored 30 and had 15 rebounds. That's Danny Smith. Every time I look at a box score, he's 0 for 4, 0 for 3 with a walk, and he hits 280 with 30 homers, 10 WAR. It's just incredible.
Yeah, there's not a better defender in the league.
No.
The 80-80 cuts it off, or I guess it's 100-100 now. Cuts it off.
No, it's still 80-80 for the rating.
Really?
Well, for defensive rating, he's got 100 center field rating.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the
Because
only
he's-
thing he's not 100 on is range.
95,
According to
100.
OSA.
Let me ask this question. Let me ask this question before we get out of here. Who is going to sign the biggest contract, both in annual value and total value?
Machado.
Yeah, I think it's Machado.
Because
Unless there's a bidding war for
Herbeck capped himself at 5 years or 5 to 7 years. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. I
That's a
think
good
it's
point.
Machado easily.
But I think those are the.
I think Machado gets the biggest contract, but just because I think there's going to be a bidding war with Herbeck being a CCP, I think he gets more annual value, but Machado gets more total value.
But the
I
eight
can see
teams that are a potential spot have got to want to get into that bidding war. And that's kind of what I think is going to depress his price a little bit. And a player wanting that ability to step away from a team if it's not going good in a few years, he's going to cost himself some annual value that way, I think.
There are probably at most 15 teams that can make a bid for him right now.
Yeah.
And realistically, if you don't want to stretch yourself too thin, there's probably 8.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Herbeck's not going to sign for minimum. He's going to make a lot of money. It's just, I think he's looking for flexibility, and I think that's going to cost him some cash. So
I believe that's fair.
I
So I
agree with
hear.
you. Well, gentlemen, this has been fun to be back. I miss this. This is the meat and potatoes of fun for me. Any final thoughts before we depart? Any words of wisdom? Anything
I'm
you
proud
all
of
would
the
like to
group.
say before we head
I'm
out?
proud of the group. We managed to cut the second half of this episode to 22 minutes post. The first half took 41, the second half took 22 so far. So
I mean,
I'm
there was
very
less
proud
to
of the group.
say about the lesser free agents.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
just
more to
proud
say
of
about the big names.
I'm proud of
And
the
as a
group.
media guy, I've learned to work to a deadline.
There you go.
Yeah.
Even though you're the one that's
Tim,
setting it for yourself.
Tim, I don't know if you can do this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Do you have any podcast exclusive scoop that you could give us for the listeners of the podcast?
Let me check my DMs.
Someone messaged him in the past
Folk-
50 minutes.
Folks, this is why you listen to the podcast. You get exclusive scoops, and you get to see our devilishly handsome faces. Well, the three of them. Me, on the other hand, I need some work, but
I'm just glad I survived the fire. That's all I care about. No real. Well, I can give you this one scoop. If you have signed up to Commissioner's Corner, which is the tier 3 thing, it gets kind of quiet in there sometimes. We are going to be posting some Commish Corner exclusive material there. There's already the way too early 2031 predictions that was out there. which has taken a horrific beating with all the trades that have come around. Plus, these two guys weren't even GMs when I wrote that. So that's going to have to basically just be torn up and thrown away. We're also going to have like the top 10 now for each position for EMLB. That's going to be coming up as video. So going to try to be a little more creative and busy with video stuff. And that's going against my grain, but I'm going to jump in with both feet. So
yeah, for those of you that
Tim,
were around a while ago, I used to be the YouTube editor for the EMLB. I was the one that was taking these podcasts, posting them up. But I am happily passing the mantle on to Tim, who is going to focus fully on media content, and I will do my best to help you with the video editing stuff.
You know, when
Thank you.
quit a job that you've been ready to leave, and you not necessarily hate the job or the people that you worked with, but you were very ready to leave, and on your last day, you stormed out of the building, raised your hands there, and said, "Thank God I'm free." That was Andrew, I think, when he quit being the YouTube editor.
I put a lot of pressure on myself to try to make EMLB's YouTube channel grow. And it kind of burned me out. So now that Tim is able to step in, no longer worrying about the time spent as a GM, is able to fully commit to the media, which, by the way, if you're not in the Discord and you're missing out on the CCP festival, it's the best it's ever been, in my opinion. It's always fantastic material. And I'm just glad that someone can help pick up the media, because honestly, until Tim took over media stuff, and then honestly, when Aiden and Brendan came back, our Discord's been kind of dead. It's been hopping ever since the three of y'all have, Tim changed his role and you two came back to the GM role. The Discord has been so much more alive than it has ever been this season. And so hopefully we can keep that rolling. That's right. Stir in the pot. Let's keep it rolling.
And also just want to say,
Tim, speaking of
recreating the JR meme.
Yes.
Aiden's definitely delayed, by the way.
He is. He absolutely is.
I am. Tim, speaking of the CCP festival, we also hear that you, according to my reports and multiple reports that we've heard, there's some fireworks planned for the end, no pun intended.
Yes, there is. We are going to be honoring the first two CCPs that retired from EMLB this past offseason. Chubby Franchise and Logan Nutzman. No, we will not be combining them together. They are going to be throwing it. Yep, they're going to be throwing out the first pitches in the first two finals games, and we're trying to get some cameras in there. I don't know what's going on with that, but we'll see. So yeah, there's a surprise coming for the finals.
Make sure you guys stay tuned to all the media outlets available. Make sure to drop into the Discord. Follow us on Twitch as well. Make sure to follow along as the hot stove is just getting started. It's already been hot with trades flying around faster than hairballs. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming. I'm sure the trades aren't done, but make sure you're in there, because Kamish has also promised in his streams it's going to be more hot stove style. We're going to have more GM interviews on there. There's already been some great ones. I loved the one, I think it was last week, that we had with the Phillies and Hebrew Hammer. He gave a great interview setting up the CCP festival equivalent team in EMLB in real life. And it's really a lot of fun. So if you're not following along there, that's a good part. You're getting about 25% of the story there. You get about 10% of the story over here on our podcast, and then you get the rest of the percentage over there in our Discord. So make sure you tune in there. Gentlemen, it's been great to be back. We got to do this again soon. Maybe not the draft, but maybe some other fun stuff. I know we've got a few things in the works and a few things planned, but it was great being back. JR, we miss you. We can't wait to have you on again. We know life is busy and work is busy, but we can't wait to have your sexiness joining us again. So for Andrew, for Brennan, and for Tim, I am Aiden. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Make sure to subscribe where you can. Make sure to join the Discord and the Twitch as well. And until next time, we will see you later. Have a great night, everyone.